Man, this is one of the craziest stories that we have talked about in a long time. This guy, and I'm not even talking about Hunter Biden. We'll talk about Hunter Biden later in the show. He's a loser. There are some things I have to say about Hunter Biden. I'm talking about Colin Kaepernick. I don't know if you guys have seen this story. It kind of got buried in the avalanche of, well, the Hunter Biden stuff and the Titanic submersible getting lost at sea story. This story about Colin Kaepernick, just when you thought, oh, great, I never have to hear this name associated with politics or football ever again, Colin Kaepernick resurfaces. He resurfaces because now he's an editor, I guess. He didn't write the book himself. He just put a book together with two other editors who, even if you don't recognize their names, wait till you hear who they are. I want to read their names to you. Robin D.G. Kelly. Probably doesn't mean anything to you, right? Yep. Kianga Yamada Taylor. Again, probably doesn't mean anything to you because you're not communists. Yes, these two individuals are self-avowed Marxists. Not only is Colin Kaepernick palling around, collaborating with Marxists, he praises these Marxists and admits that he is a Marxist. So get this. When I read this story, I had to like dig into this story because when Colin Kaepernick was on the football field, this was like the original boycott that conservatives staged, right? When he was on the football field kneeling for the national anthem, when he was kneeling in front of our flag, when he was disrespecting the United States of America and pretending that it was patriotic, pretending that it was in the name of free speech, that you can both love your country while also calling for it to be a better place. We as conservatives were shamed. We were told, if you don't raise your fist with Colin Kaepernick's fist, then you don't support black people in our country. Even as we conservatives were like, well, wait a second, isn't that like the Black Liberation Army fist? Isn't that like a communist Marxist symbol? And we were told, no. If you don't join in Colin Kaepernick's protests, you just don't want to better America for black people. We were told you're racist. We were told you have white privilege and you don't understand because you are part of perpetuating white supremacy. That's what we were told about the Black Lives Matter movement, right? As Colin Kaepernick called to abolish prisons. He called to abolish police. He wore socks with cops on them. These cops are depicted as pigs. We were told, I mean, what did Nike do, right? You can look at this Nike ad. Nike paid him how many millions of dollars to do this ad? He's portrayed himself ever since. This ad says, believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. Let me tell you, this little phrase, this marketing mantra from Nike is going to take on a whole new meaning after today. Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. Well, what exactly are you wanting to sacrifice, Colin? We know you're wanting to sacrifice. He threw his own family under the bus. He was adopted, and his parents are white. Shouldn't make any difference. Parents are parents, child is a child. They loved him, they raised him, they gave him wonderful opportunities, schooling. He succeeded in our country, became an NFL football player. Most young men's dream that most people aren't able to obtain. He now, by the way, is worth $40 million, living the American dream. He puts together this book with these two Marxists. This is what he says about them. Are you ready for this? I've long admired Kianga and Robin's work, as well as their uncompromising political analysis. Remember, they're open Marxists. They say we are Marxists. And understanding that black liberation simply isn't possible under capitalism. So Colin Kaepernick is a Marxist. Colin Kaepernick is a communist. He says, I think the anthology makes this, and that's his book, makes this argument quite well. And I hope it challenges readers to see that racism is not white supremacy's only ingredient. White supremacy persists in part because of its relationship with capitalism and heteropatriarchy and ableism and so on. Colin Kaepernick is a Marxist. So as we were shamed for not respecting his right to freedom of speech, what was he doing? He was trying to undermine the United States of America because we are an anti-Marxist, anti-communist country. The antithesis of who we are is against the communist ideology and the Marxist ideology. This is what he says. Can you believe this? He goes on to say, the evolution of my political thinking comes from a combination of elevating my own political education by reading the works of Black radical thinkers and being in conversation with Black radical organizers. That, my friends, is the language of Marxism. And then he uses a term that I think you'll be very, very familiar with. And we're going to get to that in just a second. But first, I want to talk to you about bank on yourself. Let me ask you this question. Do you really control your own retirement money? If you've got a 401k or an IRA or a similar retirement plan, the government actually controls it. They decide how much you can borrow and when you must pay it back, and you'll owe taxes and penalties if you take your money out too soon or if you wait too long, even though it's your money. And thanks to our skyrocketing national debt and a Congress that continues to spend like a drunken sailor, who knows how much you'll have to pay in taxes during a retirement that, could last 30 years? Let me tell you. Bank on yourself is a better way to grow and protect your hard-earned money. This retirement plan alternative has never had a losing year in over 160 years. You are in control. You get access to your money for any purpose with no questions asked and without government penalties or restrictions on how much income you can take or when you can take it. Try doing that with a 401k or IRA. You can't. Let me tell you, Bank on Yourself is just a better way. Now you can get a free report with all the details on how the Bank on Yourself strategy adds guarantees, predictability, tax savings, and control to your financial plan. Just go to bankonyourself.com/Liz. That's bankonyourself.com/Liz. So then the Marxist, Colin Kaepernick, goes on to say, Black history, and more generally, a critical engagement with U.S. history threatens the white supremacist status quo. So you know what word in that sentence just was like a flashing red warning light to me? When he said a critical engagement, what is he talking about when he says a critical engagement? When we see the word critical used by radical leftists who are palling around and with Marxists and espousing Marxism, we know immediately that this comes from critical theory. This is a looking at the United States through the lens of critical theory. And what is critical theory but a Marxist theory? Colin Kaepernick is espousing Marxist ideology after we were shamed for not supporting him. If we did not also disrespect the flag of the United States of America, then we did not like Black people. All along, Colin Kaepernick was this closet Marxist. And by the way, guess who's featured in his book? Angela Davis, a self-avowed open communist. Featured in his book. And by the way, as Colin Kaepernick is trying to dismantle our capitalist system, he said, because Black liberation is not possible in a capitalist system, and a capitalist system is nothing but a white supremacist status quo. Guess how much money Colin Kaepernick has? $40 million. And this, for anyone interested, is the $5 million mansion that Colin Kaepernick lives in. Take a look at that. Look at that. Whoa. It's quite a nice piece of property. It's a lovely house. He must have so much space in that house that he bought with money that he earned in our free market economy, playing a sport, throwing a ball around, becoming massively wealthy in a way that you couldn't do in any other country because of our capitalist system. He seems really oppressed, I gotta tell you. He seems like he is really suffering. He seems like he's facing a lot of discrimination based on the color of his skin. Oh, wait a second. No, he doesn't. What he seems like is he seems like a Marxist. Can you believe this guy? I can't believe that this story is not a bigger deal than it was. Think about before the Bud Light boycott, you rewind just a couple of years and Colin Kaepernick was the big outrage, and rightly so, by the way. I was also outraged on the right. People who watched NFL football were like, well, wait a second, this is supposed to be patriotic. I don't want to tune in and see before the game. I don't want to see somebody that won't stand and honor our flag. I don't want to see someone who's raising a fist like the Black Liberation Army used to. I don't want to see someone claiming that America is a nasty place and disavowing their family and trying to abolish police and abolish prisons and calling cops pigs. Well, now it makes a lot more sense because the kind of person that tries to abolish the family, that tries to abolish the criminal justice system, that tries to abolish prisons, that tries to abolish capitalism. Oh, what kind of person does that? A Marxist does that. And Colin Kaepernick is a Marxist. So I'm glad that we've straightened that out. And I will sit here and I will wait for the apology from all the leftists and a few, actually, of the Republicans who tried to come to Colin Kaepernick's defense at the time when we were warning that he was very bad news. Also bad news. Hunter Biden. Hunter pled Biden, as they say. Hunter pled Biden. I know it's a dad joke, but it really is kind of, it really does describe exactly what happened here. Hunter Biden has been charged with 2 misdemeanors related to not paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes. And he entered into an agreement, a pretrial diversion agreement for his firearm charge. And I have a few thoughts on this. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But first, I want to talk to you about American Hartford Gold. I don't mean to sound doom and gloom, but I do feel like we're on the brink of a massive financial crisis. Not really a matter of if, more a matter of when. We saw Silicon Valley Bank collapse, and then Signature Bank, and then First Republic Bank. And then we had Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen admit that the FDIC and the Fed are going to pick and choose which banks to rescue and which not to rescue based basically on wokeness. My question is our money really safe in the system? And I'll be honest and tell you, I don't feel confident that it is. That's why I highly recommend you do what I did, called the only precious metals dealer I trust, American Hartford Gold. They make it simple and easy to protect your savings and retirement accounts with physical gold and silver. With one short phone call, they can have physical gold and silver delivered right to your door or inside your IRA or 401k. If you call them right now, they will give you up to $1,500 of free silver on your first order. So don't wait. Call them now. Call 866-781-7499. That's 866-781-7499. Or text Liz to 65532. Again, the phone number is 866-781-7499. Or if you prefer text messaging, then text Liz, L-I-Z, to 65532. So Hunter Biden has been charged with 2 misdemeanors related to his taxes. He did not pay. He owed about $100,000 in taxes in 2017 that he did not pay. He owed about $100,000 in taxes again, an additional $100,000 in taxes in 2018. He did not pay that as well. So he pled guilty to both of those misdemeanor charges, which seems like not that big of a deal. I mean, he committed a crime. When I say not that big of a deal, it seems like not that big of a charge. What he did does seem like a pretty big deal. But what's worse in this announcement from the Department of Justice is that Hunter Biden, who illegally possessed a firearm, right? He had misrepresented himself and his drug usage on the application. He had illegal possession of a firearm. He's not going to go to jail for this. He's entered into a pretrial diversion agreement, which will most likely mean that he will never set foot in jail or prison for even a day. So something smells a little fishy when it comes to the Hunter Biden. The Hunter Biden, I don't even know what to call it here. I mean, it's hardly charges. He pled guilty to 2 misdemeanors. Whoopee. The guy sold access to foreign nations when his father was president or was vice president and probably president. He's endangered national security. There's who knows what kind of crimes on his laptop, and he gets 2 misdemeanor charges for tax evasion. I mean, this is pretty obvious that the Department of Justice is simply trying to say, oh, look, there is equal justice. Nobody's above the law. Really? Nobody's above the law? Then how come Hunter Biden is getting off easy? Could it be that his last name is Biden? Under this pre-trial diversion agreement, Hunter Biden is still allowed to buy a gun. He could walk into a gun store and purchase a firearm legally because it doesn't prohibit him. He doesn't have to say that he's ever been a prohibited person if he completes this pre-trial diversion program. How about that? How about that? Yes. It's a double standard of justice. It is. And we can sit here and we can be outraged about it, and we should, because it's awful, it's egregious, it's Banana Republic stuff, it's unfair, it's unjust. The way that they're going after Trump and not going after the Bidens, the way that they're going after Trump and not going after the Clintons, the way that they're going after parents who oppose critical race theory and queer theory in their children's schools and not going after the Antifa and the Black Lives Matter thugs that literally firebombed police. Yes, it's unfair. That's not really what we're here to establish today, though. The question today is, what are elected Republicans going to do about it? Are we going to tweet about it? Are we going to sit here and talk about the hypocrisy of the thing? Or are elected Republicans going to take action? They have oversight, authority of the Department of Justice. Use it. Use your authority. Otherwise, what are you there for? What are you doing? We don't care about your opinions. We certainly don't care about your tweets. Do your job. Hold the executive branch accountable for wrongdoings it commits. That's your responsibility. It's your duty. And yet here Republicans are, yet again, time after time after time, when Democrats abuse their power, Democrats abuse their people, Democrats weaponize the government. Republicans complain about it. Sometimes they'll even hold a hearing. But what do they ultimately do? Nothing. Who faces accountability? Nobody. What ultimately happens? The Democrats are emboldened, and they do it again and again and again. So spare me the double standard of justice. Spare me we have two tiers, one for the elected officials and one for the sorry people. Yes, we do. And there are people in government right now who can do something about it, and they're not. And I feel more indignant towards the people in government who can do something to stop the injustice than I do towards the people who are inflicting the injustice. A couple of points about the level of corruption in the Department of Justice, in case any congressional Republican is watching, just in case they need a little bit of information to light a fire under their tail. This is courtesy, actually, Jenna Ellis dug this up. Kudos to her. Dug this up from the Department of Justice website. This is part of the sentencing protocol, or the protocol that goes into how you charge somebody under a crime. And this is what it says on the Department of Justice website. Absent approval by the Office of the Deputy Attorney General, any pretrial diversion program created by a U.S. Attorney's Office shall exclude any individual who is, there are 6 bullets. Bullet number 3 says, any individual who is accused of an offense involving brandishing or use of a firearm or other deadly weapon. So what does this mean? This means that unless the Office of the Deputy Attorney General made a specific exception for Hunter Biden, then Hunter Biden would not be allowed to enter a pretrial diversion program because he qualified or he disqualified based on the fact that the charge was related to a firearm, which means that the Deputy Attorney General of the United States made an exception for the president's son. The Deputy Attorney General of the United States is Lisa Monaco. Lisa Monaco is a radical leftist who many in the swamp say is actually the one controlling Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland, I don't know if I fully believe that, because Merrick Garland is a very bad dude in and of himself, but he's not doing bad things all by himself. And this woman is helping him. And then, of course, we have the prosecutor in the case. The prosecutor, and this is from attorney Mike Davis from the Article 3 Project. This is what he says. Derek Hines is one of the federal prosecutors on Hunter Biden's sweetheart deal. Derek Hines served as special counsel to former FBI Director Louis Freeh from 2013 through February of 2015. In April 2016, Louis Freeh gave $100,000 to 2 of then Vice President Joe Biden's grandkids' trust. Why on earth would the former FBI director give $100,000, $100,000 to the trust of Joe Biden's grandchildren? The depth of corruption in the swamp is oftentimes greater than I think even those of us who are very active in politics understand. This is not a coincidence that Hunter Biden was charged with nothing's going to happen to him. This is exactly what the Biden administration wanted. And the way that they executed this was by years and years and years of corrupting individuals, paying off individuals. Hunter selling access for favors to individuals until they built up this huge network of people who will never hold them accountable for any wrongdoing they do. Andrew Weissman, you might remember that name from Russiagate. Andrew Weissman tweeted, we're going to read this tweet in just a moment, but first I want to talk about revolutionary relief. Revolutionary relief is a huge game changer. The topical roll and gel capsules together work to provide targeted pain relief for you. Applying the roll directly to your knees, your elbows, your neck, or your back will bring immediate soothing relief, while the gel capsules tackle internal pain and inflammation, giving long-lasting results. The secret to this lies in their patented active ingredient, Canopia Active, which is derived from plants. It's 3,500% more effective than other products thanks to its water solubility and rapid absorption. Revolutionary Relief has given people the freedom to live without constant pain, and almost anyone can benefit from using Revolutionary Relief because studies indicate that 52 million adults in the United States experience pain on a daily basis. So whether the pain's age-related or caused by exertion at work or during exercise or due to recreational activities like golf and tennis or pickleball, Revolutionary Relief aims to provide relief. Their creators are so confident in the effectiveness of their product, they offer a 100% satisfaction guarantee, and you can try Revolutionary Relief absolutely free for the first month, making it a risk-free opportunity to experience the potential benefits. To order Revolutionary Relief, visit their website at revrelief.com/free. Just go to revrelief.com/free to order. You will not be disappointed. So Andrew Weissman, 20-year Department of Justice alum, this is what he tweets, of course, defending the way that the Department of Justice has handled this Hunter Biden sweetheart deal. He says, context, first-time tax offenders like this rarely get prosecuted and even rarer to get jail time. And false gun applications, sadly, almost never get prosecuted or jail time. So this is, if anything harsh, not lenient. It's funny because I can think of two people right off the bat, two examples of high-profile people right off the bat that disprove exactly what Andrew Weissman's saying. He's trying to make it sound like, oh, Hunter Biden's facing something facing something harsher than the average person. Most people get away with these crimes, unless, of course, you're associated with Trump, right? Because the Trump organization's former chief financial officer, you remember this? First-time tax offender, Alan Weisselberg. Where's he? He's in jail. 5 months in jail. First-time tax offender. You think that has anything to do with his association with Trump, or you think that's purely coincidence? When Joe Biden's son gets off, but Trump's former CFO is in jail. That seems a little contradictory to me. And then, of course, we have rapper Kodak Black. Kodak Black's lawyer actually posted on, you can see this on the screen right now, posted on Instagram, and let me read you what he says. He posts a picture of two headlines that says, rapper Kodak Black gets over 3 years in prison in weapons case, and this is what his caption is. He says, 2 tiers of justice. Kodak was charged for the same crime and got over 3 years. Mr. Biden will not serve a day. Feels right? The FBI agents and federal authorities take cases personally. I'm going to discuss this on my subscriber page, he said. Oftentimes these people, according to Andrew Weissman, a career swamp rat at the DOJ, says they don't get punished. That doesn't seem to be the case. In fact, statistically, 94.2% of federal firearms convictions in 2022 involved some prison time. The median sentence was 39 months. That's as reported by the Federalist. There are 2 tiers of justice, and we can get outraged about it. If only we had elected representatives that we sent to Washington, D.C. with the capacity and the authority to hold the executive branch accountable. Oh, wait, we do have that. And now it's our responsibility to ask them, what are you doing to stop this? All right, so according to a new report in the Scientific Reports Journal, which is, I guess, a journal associated with Nature Journal, artificial intelligence says that conservative women are prettier and happier than left-wing women. Yes, this is a really deep story right here. Now, anecdotally, this is something that we've heard, that conservative women are more attractive than liberal women. This is not a new talking point, although this is the first time it's been scientifically proven by artificial intelligence, no less. We've also heard that conservative women are happier, which makes sense to me because oftentimes left-wing women buy into really self-destructive narratives like feminism and abortion and man-hating and Me Too and transgenderism and critical race theory and America hating and socialism and yada, yada, yada. Of course, that's going to make them unhappy. But this is what Scientific Reports Journal found. For females, though not males, it says, High attractiveness scores were found among those the model identified as likely to be conservative. We also found that expressing happiness is associated with conservatism for both genders. And the researchers said that they observed that an expression of quote unquote contempt was related to a predicted probability of left-wing ideology. Okay, so contempt. I actually think it's a good one-word description of left-wing ideology. Contempt for humanity, contempt for your fellow man. And then of course they had AI generate what your typical left-wing versus right-wing man looks like and what your typical left-wing versus right-wing woman looks like. This was based, by the way, on a study, I think, of Dutch politicians. It wasn't even Americans. And this is what they found. Take a look at this. Up in the top left, that's what a supposedly left-wing man looks like compared to the right-wing man on the right. On the bottom row, you can see the left-wing woman, and on the right, or on the left, and on the right, on the bottom, you can see the right-wing woman. There is a noticeable difference between what liberals look like versus conservatives. I found this to be hilarious and anecdotally 100% true. 100% true. Interested in your guys' thoughts on it? Go to lizwheeler.com. Drop me your comments in the comment section and let me know what you think. So James O'Keefe over at O'Keefe Media Group, I think he's calling it OMG Media. Yes, very punny. O'Keefe Media Group has released a bombshell new video. I don't say that particularly lightly. A lot of people try to release bombshells and have, bombastic headlines. This is quite something. This is a chilling video. O'Keefe's undercover journalist stings, on a series of dates, as they usually do, go on dates with their target and secretly record the conversations. O'Keefe's journalist stings BlackRock. Yes, that's BlackRock. Larry Fink's BlackRock. The BlackRock who is maybe the biggest propagator of the World Economic Forum, the Klaus Schwab stakeholder capitalism, ESG stuff, that BlackRock. The man involved in this video, going on dates with this undercover journalist, is a recruiter at BlackRock who calls himself a gatekeeper, which I suppose is actually accurate, because if you are a headhunter at BlackRock, you are picking and choosing who is going to be onboarded at BlackRock, which means that you are somewhat in control of the people who are doing the controlling of all the industry that BlackRock owns and coerces through ESG. It's a pretty powerful position, is what I'm trying to say, this recruiter at BlackRock. And he tells the undercover reporter exactly how BlackRock buys off politicians, how BlackRock controls the world, how BlackRock is more powerful than presidents, and how BlackRock doesn't want the war in Ukraine to end. Take a look at this.
Hi, I'm James O'Keefe with OMG News. Here we are with our latest story, this time on BlackRock, one of the world's leading asset and investment managers, which owns significant shares of companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Anheuser-Busch, Meta, Target, Procter & Gamble, Comcast, CNN, Fox, and yes, Pfizer, just to name a few. At OMG, we do not shy away from exposing powerful companies, and we're not afraid of powerful people. So we decided to take a look for ourselves at the influence BlackRock has on our politics and the influence they have on our culture. So to do that, what better place to start a hidden camera investigation than into a self-described gatekeeper at BlackRock?
You're kind of like a f***ing gatekeeper at BlackRock.
Yeah, I am. I decide people's fates. Every f***ing day, I literally decide how somebody's life is going to be shaped.
That's so powerful. I love it.
Yeah, it's I don't know, the whole thing of domination from a concept is just so interesting.
Introducing Serge Varley, whose LinkedIn says he's worked for Morgan Stanley, Citadel, and now as a recruiter at BlackRock.
I work for a company called BlackRock. I'm not actually a finance guy. I know what happens because I'm recruiting people who do these things. Mm-hmm. I'm the person who headhunts people from other firms. So I would approach you and say, hey, this is a good reason why you should come work for us.
Serge tells us who really runs the world, how they do it, and just how much it costs to buy people, like politicians.
Let me tell you, it's not through who's the president. It's who's controlling the wallet. So it's
And who's that?
the hedge funds, BlackRock, the banks. These guys run campaign financing. Yep, you can buy your candidates.
How so?
All of these financial institutions, they buy politicians.
How do they run the world?
You acquire stuff. You diversify, you acquire, you keep acquiring, you spend whatever you make in acquiring more. And at a certain point, your risk level is super low. Like, imagine you've invested in like 10 different industries, from food to drinks to like technology, right? One of them fails, it doesn't matter. You have 9 others to back you up. Risk management is inherently in just about everything. And in the finance space, it's all about it's all about the money you make. You don't let it sit. You keep using it over and over, and
Reinvest.
and it exponential growth.
And then once you just own a little bit of everything, is that where the control?
Yeah, you own a little bit of everything, and that little bit of everything gives you so much money on a yearly basis that you can take this big ton of money, and then you can start to buy people. Obviously, we have this system in place. First, there's the senators, and these guys are cheap. You got 10 grand, you can buy a senator. It doesn't matter who wins.
You're still right.
They're in my pocket at this point. I can give you $500K right now, no questions asked.
Yeah.
Are you gonna do what needs to be done? I'd be like, yeah, of course.
And
why not?
does like everybody do that? Does BlackRock do that?
The BlackRock recruiter also tells us about how the U.S. government relies on BlackRock for their economic simulation computational power.
Economic simulation. They need to understand the impact of something, right? They're gonna raise the interest rate, for example. Mm-hmm. It's gonna create this cascade of various factors that people they're not sure what it's gonna do, basically.
And just how fucking great the Ukraine war is for business.
Do you have any thoughts on the Ukraine-Russia war?
Ukraine is good for business. You know, right? We don't want the conflict to end.
Why?
We don't want the conflict to end as a country. The longer this goes on, the weaker Russia is. I'll give an example. Russia blows up Ukraine's grain silos. The price of wheat's gonna go mad up. So what are you gonna do if you're a trading firm? The moment that news hits, within a millisecond, you're gonna pump trades into whoever the wheat suppliers are, into their stocks. Within an hour or two, that stock goes up, and then you sell, and you just made, I don't know, however many mil.
Why would a news channel promote a side in war?
Because it's also good for business too. I mean, what's news? News, right? What does news feed on? They feed on strategy, they feed on up events. That's what people like to watch. So when it happens, it's good business. More viewers. When nothing's happening, watches news. I don't watch news.
They're all pushing like the same talking point. Like you generally, when you look at news, like
it's propaganda. The Ukrainian economy is tied very largely to the wheat market, global wheat market. This is fantastic if you're trading. Volatility creates opportunity to make profit. War is real good for business. It's exciting when goes wrong, right?
Serge also speaks on BlackRock-influenced news and even gave our journalists some tips.
based on everything we know now, when they say to sell, does that mean we should buy?
Sell, yeah. It's like, Jim Cramer? If you do exactly the opposite of what he's advising, you actually make money.
Huh?
Yeah. It's called the inverse Cramer. They don't want to be in the news. They don't want people to talk about them. They don't want to be anywhere on the radar.
Why not?
I don't know, but I suspect it's probably because it's easier to do things when people aren't thinking about it.
And when Serge was asked about insider trading and if Larry Fink recently sold $100 million in BlackRock shares, here is what he said.
Larry Fink recently sold $100 million worth of BlackRock.
Wow. Damn, Larry, that's not a good sign. The people who trade and make money, they do this the moment the information is out. And that info is typically
typically disseminated at private levels first before it hits the mainstream. If you want to invest smart, there's a tracker that tracks all politicians and where they have their stocks. Preemptively, if we think the stock price is going to tank, we're going to sell so that we sell it high, it tanks, and we buy back. And we didn't make, but we preserved a few mil.
But perhaps the most remarkable and profound comment by the BlackRock recruiter is the suggestion that nobody is going to care about what he is saying here or confessing here. Because as he says, quote, normal people don't give a shit.
You're like an undercover reporter.
Really? No, don't normal people worry about this stuff?
No, normal people don't give a shit. This is beyond them.
That these types of questions my reporter asked are beyond all of you. The answer is something that you, the people, the consumers, the shareholders, couldn't possibly understand.
Well, first of all, I hope James O'Keefe has security because BlackRock doesn't like being messed with. BlackRock is very, very powerful. BlackRock is maybe one of the most powerful entities in the entire world. The entire world. And James O'Keefe got access to this recruiter. So for those who might not be familiar with the role that BlackRock plays in propagating ESG, remember that ESG is environmental, social, and governance metrics, which sounds like a big mouthful of nothing, but what it really means is a social credit score system like the Chinese social credit score system, where individuals in China and businesses in China are ranked on this social credit score system as dictated by the Chinese Communist Party. So if the Chinese Communist Party wants you to behave X, Y, Z, and you do, then you get positive points from them. But if the Chinese Communist Party wants you not to do A, B, C, and you do it anyway, well, then you're downgraded on the social credit score system. It's basically a second set of laws that they just pretend aren't actually laws. It's not ownership of the Chinese economy by the Chinese Communist Party, but it's control of the Chinese economy by the Chinese Communist Party. It's a very sneaky system that isn't exactly socialism, it isn't exactly communism, but it does have an iron grip of control over the ideology that is allowed to exist within China because of what businesses are forced to do to achieve the social credit that they need to operate in the Chinese market. Well, Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, their ESG system, this environmental, social, and governance metrics, is essentially the same thing as the Chinese communist social credit score system. The ESG system right now is just aimed at businesses. It's not aimed at individuals yet. It will be soon, but right now it's just aimed at businesses. And it's primarily aimed at these large financial institutions like Bank of America, for example, or like BlackRock, for example. And the reason that it's aimed at the controllers of the money first is for the exact reason that they're the controllers of the money. What the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab want Bank of America and BlackRock to do is they want these financial institutions to determine who they will give loans to based on whether these businesses that want loans from these big finance guys, whether they will follow the ESG metrics that Klaus Schwab has deputized BlackRock and Bank of America to be the ones to enforce, right? So it makes a huge difference now. Now, if you want to get a loan, if you want to have access to the market, then you have to abide by the environmental, social, and governance metrics. And to give you an example of what one of them is, the social and environmental, social, and governance is DEI. The environmental is buying into, no fossil fuels. The governance is redistribution of wealth and, through wealth taxes. And it's essentially socialism. Like, this is a very far leftist agenda that's just disguised in these letters that just sound like euphemisms because they want it to seem non-threatening so they can embed it in our society before we've realized it. And they're doing it through the financial system. BlackRock is the biggest propagator of ESG. BlackRock is the biggest propagator. Another name for ESG is stakeholder capitalism. So what we understand to be capitalism in the United States is actually shareholder capitalism, where businesses focus on their shareholders and their consumers, right? They want to please their customer and they want to make money and profit for their shareholder. That's how they make business decisions, based on what's best for that relationship. In stakeholder capitalism, they think about ESG before they think about their consumers and before they think about their profit, right? So BlackRock is one of the biggest propagators of ESG. And at the same time, you saw in the video, BlackRock has so much money. They manage so many assets. We're talking trillions, tens of trillions of dollars of money. It's an unfathomable amount of money to me. They control so much that they own an enormous portion of almost every big company that you do business with, that you can think of, that exists around us. They control almost everything. And this is their agenda. That was just exposed by James O'Keefe, that they are actually controlling. They're not just controlling our culture. They're not just controlling our economy based on who is allowed to participate in the market, who they invest in. They're controlling politicians. They're controlling senators by paying people off. They invest so much. They invest in so much that they have so much that they're reaping from that they have all this excess cash that they just use to bribe people. Sit back and think about that for a moment. The Democrats tell us that our democracy is under attack. But is our democracy even a democracy if our elected officials aren't the ones making decisions? If they're bought off by firms like BlackRock, who are serving an agenda, a globalist agenda, similar to the Chinese Communist Party agenda? This is scary stuff. And nobody is exposing it, except it's the first time we've gotten a peek inside BlackRock thanks to James O'Keefe. Again, I hope James has security, and we'll have to wait to see when James himself confronts this BlackRock recruiter next. If you haven't already signed up for my brand new email newsletter, please go over to lizwheeler.com/email and sign up. I think you'll like it. Thank you for watching today. Thank you for listening. I'm Liz Wheeler. This is The Liz Wheeler Show. If you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button below, and ring the bell to make sure you never miss a video.